Well, good day to you all. Michael Didier here. Thank you for joining me. You know, I always say we're continuing our journey. You know, this thing that we do each week to get to know Yahovah better, that's what it's all about. I want to know Yahovah. I want to say things correctly. I want to understand things correctly. I'm always learning, always trying to figure out and develop deeper understandings. And I believe it's Yahovah's wisdom working in me, giving me knowledge, giving me understanding to be able to communicate things better than I did last week. That's my goal. I want to be the man who reveals Yahovah and his kingdom and his image on the earth. That said, I had another insight. Really, I think it was the Complete Jewish Bible that helped me to see something this week that I thought, no, maybe it will help us develop some other understandings. I've been calling B'nai Israel, most translated as the children of Israel, some translated as sons of Israel. I don't think either of them is right, though sons is better, but we miss it. We just miss it. The complete understanding, because when we think sons of Israel, we're thinking about all the men of Israel. And I don't think that's the case. At least in our understanding of Israel, see, we understand Israel as men and women and children and servants and ger and their families. But that's not who Israel is. Israel is the spiritually born men. I've been calling them Israel's seed. I used to call them Yahovah's son, the plural he. But, you know, I've developed deeper understandings, and I want to somehow get to the idea that when we're talking about Israel's seed, B'nai Israel, we're talking about spiritually born men. Ezra men is what we've come to see them as. The Chesed of Yahovah, his kind. It's a beautiful picture when we begin to see it. When we talk about Aaron's seed, when we talk about Jacob's seed, when we talk about even Heth's seed, the wicked men. We can talk about Egypt's seed, kind of a substantive noun. The seed of Zadik, B'nai Zadik, is righteous seed, but we can also have wicked seed. But when we see this B'nai, it's always going to have a proper noun or a substantive noun. Proper noun, Jacob, Israel, Joseph, Heth. Substantive noun are things like Zadik, righteousness, B'nai of righteousness. The insight I had this week was this. I saw in the Complete Jewish Bible that they called Israel's seed Israel's descendants. I thought, oh, that's really good. I like that. Maybe they said descendants of Israel is perhaps how they said it, but it's Israel's descendants. Again, we're talking about seed. The challenge that I have, and I have the same problem with seed, is that I want to make it all about men, because we're talking about Ezra men. They are the seed of Israel, Yahovah's Chesed. Not that those two words are related at all. Really, when I'm saying seed, I'm not talking about Zerah so much as I'm talking about men of multi-generations. So using this word descendants really can communicate the same thing, but we still have to fix our minds on understanding that we're talking about Ezra men. not just any descendant. We're talking about Ezra men. I think that last week, look at what it says. We were talking about numbering Israel's seed in the second month. Here's how it started. Now Jehovah spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting on the first day of the second month in the second year. This is 1 month after the tabernacle, Mishkan, the tent of meeting, Ohel of Me'od, was set up. In between that first month, first day when it was set up, and this day, we had a Passover right in the middle of that month. Got more Ezra men, and it makes sense that they're being numbered now after we've got the Ezra men, because who are we going to number? It says, take a census of all the assembly of Israel's descendants, Israel's seed, by their families, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male individually, from 20 years old and above, who are able to go to war. Well, when we got them all numbered, how many did we have? Do you remember? 603,550. Here it is right here on the side. That's how many men we had. Didn't number. Levi, he says, only the tribe of Levi you shall not number, nor take a census of them among Israel's descendants. Again, we're talking about Ezra men. There are no ladies being numbered. There are no servants being numbered. There are no Gerim being numbered. In the next chapter, we talked about how we are to camp. I thought this was very, very interesting. We had a picture here. This is the same way that we camped. Well, this is the same way that we carried Jacob's bier. Remember when Jacob died? His sons carried him, and he gave them instructions on how to carry his bier. He said it's the same way that we're going to camp in the wilderness. Wow, how interesting is that? Well, this is how we did it. But on this picture, note, it also has some things about the Levites. Moses and Aaron on the east side, Kohathites on the south side, Gershonites on the west side, and on the north side were the Merarites. Today, we're going to talk about that. We're going to see what their jobs were in setting up the tabernacle and taking down the tabernacle. We're going to be working with the holy things, and there's some rules, the Kodesh things, the most Kodesh, the Kodesh Kodashim things. And we have to be very careful in touching those things, even the Levites, because just for the Levites to see it, they'll die. You know, you see these movies, the Israelites carrying the Ark of the Covenant through the wilderness. It's never covered. Never covered. You can always see it. You look at the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it was like when you peeked on the inside of it, then all those terrible things came out and everybody died. But just looking at the Ark, you got destroyed. Wasn't the job of even the Levites to look at the Ark. Only a small portion of them, called the seed of Aaron, the descendants of Aaron, the priests. Those are the ones that were able to look upon the ark. And really, probably all of them didn't even do it, although some of them did at times, I'm sure. But the rest of Israel, the Levites, didn't even see the lampstand. They didn't see the golden table. They didn't see the altars, the golden altar. They weren't in there. Well, we're going to see some things today. I think you'll find it interesting. All right, let's go to chapter 3. This is where we left off last week. He says, now these are the records of Aaron and Moses when Yahweh spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. These are the records. The records. Who wrote the Torah? I mean, actually wrote it. Was it Caleb? Was it somebody like that who put this together for us? It appears that it was Moses, at least, who wrote Deuteronomy. Now, these are the records of Aaron and Moses when Yahweh spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. And these are the names of Aaron's descendants. This is Aaron's seed. They say Aaron. I didn't realize this morning, that Aaron is really pronounced Aharon. 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 B'nai Aharon. Aaron's seed. Now, at this point, Aaron's seed is also Aaron's sons. But it doesn't say sons, it says B'nai. It doesn't say Banim, Aaron. It doesn't say Aaron and his sons. It says B'nai Aaron, Aaron's descendants. Well, this chapter is all about Aaron's descendants, but also the Levites as well. The descendants of Levi. Levi's descendants, Levi's seed. It says these are the names of Aaron's descendants. Nadav, the firstborn, the Bekor. Avihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. These are the names of Aaron's descendants. The anointed priests whom he consecrated to minister as priests. He. Who's he? Consecrated to minister as priests. I would say the priest, that he is Moses. Then it says, Nadav and Avihu had died before Yahovah in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no sons. Sons, not children, sons. There it is, Banim. So Eleazar and Itamar ministered as priests in the presence of Aaron, their father. And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, bring Levi's tribe. What is this word? I didn't look this one up. Levi's tribe, actually I probably did look it up, but I don't remember what it said. Levi's, here it is here, Metah, branch, tribe they translated it as. Interesting. Bring Levi's tribe near and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. Did you hear that? The Levites are to serve Aaron, and we're going to see today, just a few more verses, that it's Aaron and his sons. Aaron and his seed is who the Levites are to serve. Remember, Aaron and his seed are really the Yahovah's image on the earth. Dare I say that they represent Yahovah? You bring an offering to Yahovah, you bring it to Aaron and his sons. His descendants, if you will. They represent Yahovah on the earth. And the Levites are going to serve Aaron and his sons. This says just Aaron right now. That they may serve him. And they shall attend to his needs. the needs of the whole congregation. So the Levites are attending to Aaron and his needs, the needs of the whole congregation before the tabernacle, the tent of meetings. To do, here's what it says here. I have to do the work. Here it is to do, no, I take it back. To do the work of the tabernacle. They talk about the tent of meeting, and then they talk about the Mishkan, Ha-Mishkan, the tabernacle, to do the work of the tabernacle. That's the job of Aaron and his sons. It goes on. Also, they shall attend to all the furnishings of the tent of meeting. The Ohel of Moed. The furnishings of the Ohel of Moed. That's everything. That's the golden altar. That's the Ark of the Covenant. That's the tent. That's the court. That's the curtains, both the holy one that separates the holy from the most holy place, and the covering the door of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and the door of the court. All of that they're responsible for, and they are going to carry that. You're going to see how they're going to carry it in the wilderness, and who's going to carry it in the wilderness. Later on, we're going to see that they're going to have some wagons that they're going to get to help them carry it in the wilderness, because frankly, there's a lot of heavy stuff in here. Or let me see what I have here. Yeah, here I have, also they shall attend to the furnishings of the tent of Moed, the Ohel of meeting, to do the work of the tabernacle. Here we have the Abed, Abodah. Abodah comes from the same word that Aved comes from. In fact, you can see Aved in it, which means servant. Here it is right here. An bet dot. The tabernacle's service. It's almost like they are serving. What are we talking about here? They shall attend to the Levites. They shall attend to the furnishings of the tabernacle of meeting, the tent of meeting, and to the needs of Israel's seed to do the service, to do the tabernacle service. Their job is all about serving Yahovah. Yet they are the servants of the priests. And you shall give the Levites, here it is, to Aaron and his sons. His sons, there it is, to Aaron and to his sons, it says. It looks like B'nai with a Vav, but it's really Benim with a Vav. It's just conjugated. So it gets a little confusing for those of us who don't know the Hebrew as well. And you shall give the Levites to Aaron and his sons. They are given entirely to him from among Israel's descendants. Again, spiritually born men. So you shall appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall attend to their priesthood. But the outsider who comes near shall be put to death. Aaron and his sons. Outsider who comes near shall be put to death. Do you know that a Levite can be an outsider if he's in the wrong place at the wrong time? One of Israel's seed can be an outsider. It's a Zor. You know, it really gets confusing because many Bibles will translate this word as stranger. And so we think we're talking about Ger. We're not talking about Ger. We're talking about somebody who doesn't belong with the holy things. We're going to see there's going to be even Kohathites, Gershonites, and Merarites, that if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, even they can be killed. shall be put to death. Again, I said it last week, Jehovah has a system. He's got a way that he wants things to be done. And we have to do this carefully, with respect and honor and fear before Jehovah. He's going to tell us how to move all the Kodesh things that are associated with the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and the court that goes around it. Then Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among Israel's seed instead of every firstborn who opens the womb. Remember, we're talking about firstborn. What's the firstborn? The firstborn is not a female. The firstborn is a male. We're talking about opening the matrix. Really, it's the open part of it that's talking about the matrix in a sense. Let me show you. I think I put something together on this. I think you'll find it interesting. Now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among Israel's descendants instead of every Bekor. Here it is. There's Bekor. Here is, this is the word that says firstborn who opens the womb. So firstborn was Bekor. It looks like it's on the next line, but if you do it like this, you can see it's Bekor, Pater, Rakem. Rakem is womb. Sometimes it gets translated as matrix. But this is what we're talking about. We're talking about men who produce men, who produce men, who produce men, who produce men. We're going to teach the Torah to our sons and our sons' sons and our sons' sons' sons. And it came to pass when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go. Oh, this is Exodus 13. I was thinking I was doing the next verse. Let me go back to the page view here. I still want you to hear this verse. This is Exodus 13, talking about the Bekor. We got to understand who these Bekor are. Who was it that died in Egypt? Men or women or just men? It was actually Zakar, males of man and beast. Let's take a look at it. Jehovah killed the Bekor in the land of Egypt. Bekorah is the firstborn daughter. We're not talking about Bekorah. We're talking about Bekor. Same word that Jehovah used when he talked about let my son, let my Bekor, let my son, my Bekor go, that he may serve me. The plural he, the Bekor. And it came to pass when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go that Jehovah killed the Bekor in the land of Egypt, both firstborn, both the Bekor of man and the Bekor of beasts. Then I slaughtered to Jehovah all the males. That is the word Zakar, the males that open the womb. There's that same word. Rakem, open, was Pater, or was the word we were just looking at right up here. What was that word? Helps to remember these words. Pater, that open the womb, open the matrix. Therefore I slaughter to Jehovah all the males that open the womb, and the Bekor, and all the Bekor, my son, I ransom. Ooh, isn't that interesting? All the Bekor, my son, I ransom. Now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among Israel's seed instead of the Bekor that opens the womb. Among Israel's seed. This is how he intended it to be, was the Bekor were going to be his servants. Now the Levites are going to be his servants. Therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. on the day that I struck all the firstborn, the Bekor, in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast. They shall be mine. I am Jehovah. You can see this agrees perfectly with what we're reading in Exodus 13. Then Jehovah spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, remember, we did not number the Levites the first time around. Now he's saying, number Levi's descendants, Levi's seed by their father's house, by their families. You shall number every male from 1 month old and above. We're going to do 1 month old and above. Why 1 month? Why 1 month? I think this is right here, the answer to that question. This is Numbers 18. We haven't got there yet. Every devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. This is Aaron and his sons. Everything that first opens the womb of all flesh, which they bring to Jehovah, whether man or beast, shall be yours. They are Jehovah's representative on the earth. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall surely redeem, and the firstborn of the unclean animals you shall redeem. Can't bring our donkey. We either have to kill our donkey, we read earlier, or bring a lamb in its place. Or I guess we can redeem the donkey. I didn't see that the first time around. They didn't talk about that, redeeming it in Exodus. And the firstborn of the unclean animals you shall redeem. And those redeemed of the devoted things you shall redeem when 1 month old. So we're going to redeem it when it's 1 month old. We're going to redeem it for 5 shekels of silver. Look what it says. According to your valuation, for 5 shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, which is 20 gerahs. Remember, we're talking about a specific weight in the amount of silver. Why do we do it from 1 month old and above? Because that is the time that we're going to redeem these sons. If your son is 18 days old, it's going to be late for this census and the money involved in it, but you're still going to bring your 5 shekels and redeem your son when he's at 1 month old. So Moses numbered them according to the word of Jehovah, as he was commanded. And these are Levi's descendants. Here's Levi's descendants. Gershon, Kohat, Merari. Is it Kohat? Let me look at that. Kahat, Gershon, Kahat, and Merari. Talking about Levi's descendants. Did you know that Levi had a daughter? We're talking about Levi's seed. She's not numbered. Why? Because she's a woman. We're numbering the descendants. The B'nai. Jochebed was his daughter. And these are the names of Gershon's seed. Gershon's seed. Gershon's seed by their families. Libni and Shemai. Or maybe it's Shemai. I didn't put a thing on it there. Shemai, let's call it. And the sons of Kohath. Kohath's descendants. Again, we're talking about B'nai Kohat. By their families. Amram, remember this is the line that Moses and Aaron are in. Amram, son of Amram, ben Kohath, ben Levi, ben Jacob. Amram, Yitzhar. You don't usually think about pronouncing that with a Y, Yitzhar, when you're reading the English, do you? Kavran. We want to say Hebron, but apparently it's a het there. and Uzziel. And the sons and the descendants and Merari's descendants by their families, Mali and Mushi. These are the families of the Levites by their fathers' houses. We did Gershon, we did Kohath, we did Merari. Now he says, from Gershon came the family of the Libnites. Libnites comes from this word right here. What was his name? I always put, well, the first time that I see the name, I always put it in green. The second time I see the name, I put it in yellow. That way I know where it came from. Libni, Libnites, Shimeites, or Shemi were the Shimonites, Shemites. From Gershon came the family of the Libnites, and the family of the Shemites. These were the family of the Gershonites. Those who were numbered according to the number of all the males from 1 month old and above. Of those who were numbered were 7,500. 7,500. Let's remember that. The families of the Gershonites were to camp behind, we're still talking about Gershonites. The families of the Gershonites were to camp behind the tabernacle westward. So now we can go back to the list that we had. Let me just mark this, westward. So we're talking about camping here. They're going to create a buffer around the tabernacle so that the descendants of Israel can't get too close, see something that they're not supposed to see. But we're going to see that we're even going to guard the Kohathites, we're going to guard the Gershonites, and we're going to guard the Merarites. Aaron's sons, seed, descendants have an awesome responsibility to make sure everybody's protected. Let's go back. And the leaders of the father's house of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, the son of Lael. He's actually picking up who it's going to be. Eliasaph ben Lael, son of Lael. Now he's going to give us our duties. First we numbered them. Then he told us where we're going to camp. Now he's going to give us our duties in relation to the tabernacle. And the duties of Gershon's descendants in the tent of meeting includes, in the tent of meeting, the tabernacle. What are they going to move? Here's what they're going to move. The tent with its coverings. Here I put, in connection with the tent of meeting, the descendants. Oh, you see, this is where I picked it up. The descendants. Isn't that cool? I always was looking for something. I don't like children. I don't like sons. But I thought descendants. Descendants is a good word. I like seed still. But maybe descendants is something that will work better for you than seed, because seed usually gets translated from zerah, and we're not talking about zerah so much as we're talking about spiritually born men, descendants. If we're talking about Israel. In connection with the tent of meeting, the descendants of Gershon, this is another translation of the same verse, were to be in charge of the following: the tabernacle itself, the Mishkan itself, its inner and outer coverings. Oh, I like that. Inner and outer coverings. The inside coverings, the outside coverings. Remember, there's coverings on the walls, the wooden walls, inside the tabernacle. The screen for the entrance of the tent. it goes on, and it's going to say in the next verse, the screen for the door of the court, the hangings for the court, which are all around the court, and the altar. Now we're going to talk about Kohath. I really had to look carefully at this to find out what we're talking about as far as the coverings were concerned. The screens and all these things. Now Kohath. Remember, Kohath has the Amramites. Amramites are all the priests. It's Harites, the family of the Kavranites, the family of the Uzalites. These were the families of the Kohathites, according to the number of all the males, 1 month old and above. These were 8,600 keeping charge of the sanctuary. So the first one was 7,500. Now we got 8,600. Another round number. The families of the Kohathites were to camp on the south. On the south. Remember where they were? There it is. They're going to camp on the south. There they are. On the south side of the tabernacle. And the leaders of the father's house, of the families of the Kohathites, was Elizaphan ben Uzziel. Their duties include what? The ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, the utensils of the sanctuary with which they minister, the screen. This is the screen that is going to be between the holy place and the most holy place, and all the work relating to them. They're all dealing with the things that are on the inside, the Kodesh, Kodeshim things, most holy things. And they go on. Somebody's got to have the responsibility for the oversight for this activity. It says, and Eleazar, the son of Aharon, the priest, was to be chief over Levites' leaders, with oversight of those who kept charge of the sanctuary. Sanctuary, how much you want to bet that is the Kodesh things? I just want to check this because I'm learning, and it helps me to guess what it's going to say. There it is, Kodesh. The Kodesh. They always say sanctuary. I don't think it's sanctuary. It's the holy things. There's other things that are Kodesh, sanctuary related, but this is Kodesh. Kodesh. Kodesh things. If you want to say things, you can add that to it. That would be a good understanding. And many of them do say Kodesh things. Okay, let's go back. New King James. I'm learning as I go. I learn far more than I teach. But some of it is so subtle, it's hard to even communicate. So we have Eleazar then, ben Aharon, the priest, was to be chief over the Levites' leaders. He's instructing the Levites' leaders who are going to instruct more of the Levites with the oversight of those who are in charge of the holy things. Now, Merari. In this case, we just read 32, but his brother is going to have, remember, Eleazar has a brother. They are only the two of them, sons of Aaron, because two of them died. The other one is Ithamar. He supervises the Gershonites. And I think we're going to see that he's going to supervise the Merarites as well. Here it is talking about him supervising the Gershonites in Numbers 4, which we will get to today. This is the service of the families of Gershon's seed in the tent of meeting. And their duties shall be under the authority of Ithamar, ben Aaron, ben Aaron the priest. Aaron the priest. Okay. From Merari came the family of the Malites. Let's see, where were they at? Here they are, Mali and Mushi. Mali and Mushi. They must have liked M words in their family. Mali and Mushi. Malites, Mushites. Here we are here. From Merari came the family of the Malites and the family of the Mushites. These were the families of Merari. And those who were numbered according to the number of all the males from 1 month old and above were 6,200. Another round number, 6,200. The leader of the father's house, family of Merari, was Zuriel ben Avihalel. These were to camp on the north side of the tabernacle. Now again, they're going to talk about their duties. We're going to get even more specific, I believe, in the next chapter as far as the things that they're supposed to carry. Again, we'll take a look at it. And the point of duty of Merari's seat. Here that is. You could put a semicolon there or a colon there. The boards of the tabernacle. Its bars, its pillars, its sockets. You see that word sockets? Remember we were talking about bronze sockets? Silver sockets. But these sockets, I'm guessing they were 75, 80, 90 pounds apiece. These are big sockets. Its utensils, all the work relating to them. Its utensils are probably things like tent pegs and things like that. Here I have it put out here, the duty of the Merarites. The boards of the tabernacle. Remember, the tabernacle is all boards. It has a cloth covering on the inside of it. Its bars, its pillars, its sockets, its utensils. Oh, go ahead. Thank you, honey. My wife just remembered, my sweet woman just remembered that I didn't have my lights on. Rats. Can you see me better now? Hopefully you can. Thanks, honey. Love you, baby. Okay, the boards of the tabernacle, the bars, the pillars, the sockets, the utensils, all the work relating to them, that is taking them down and putting them up. The pillars of the court all around, the pillars of the court with their sockets. There's a gob of pillars and sockets. Their pegs and their cords. You know what? The Merarites have a lot to carry. They're the biggest tribe, but they got a lot to carry. Moreover, verse 38. Oh, you know what? So here's another group of people. Let's put this as its own group. Moreover, those who were to camp before the tabernacle on the east side, before the tent of meeting, were Aaron, Moses, and his sons. You know, I read this and I thought, Moses, Aaron, and his sons. It does not say their sons. What happened to Moses' sons? I asked myself. Where did these boys go? Then I looked. What were the names of his sons? I remember Gershon. And I looked in Exodus 2, and they didn't record the birth of the other son. Here's what it said in Exodus 2. Then Moses was content to live with the man. Remember, that was Zipporah's father. And he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses, and she bore him a son. He called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a ger in a no-cree land. A ger, and that's why his son was named Gershom. Then I thought, well, where is the name of the other son? I know he's named. I found it in Exodus 18. Here it is. Then Jethro, that was the father of Zipporah, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' woman, after he had sent her back, with her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a no-cree land, a ger in a no-cree land, and the name of the other, Eleazar. Maybe it's Eleazar. For he said, the Elohim of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his woman to Moses in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. Now keep in mind, when this happened, Gershom and Eleazar were probably 1 and 3 years old. Probably at best 3 years old. These are young boys. Where are they now? What happened to these boys? There's never a word about these boys anywhere else that I can see. What happened to them? What happens to Zipporah? Did she die? Did she go away? Did she rebel against Moses? Is it possible that the boys stayed with Jethro and Zipporah stayed with Jethro and left Moses? What happened to them? Remember, he took another woman. That's why Aaron and his sister Miriam got into such a twit. She was criticizing him for taking that woman. Sounds like it's a black woman from Africa. She got her what fors? Aaron got rebuked. She got leprosy. Got put out of the camp for 7 days. Till she was marked clean by the priests. Everybody says, why is she outside the camp? Because she's questioning her master. Her Adon. Moses is her Adon. He's Miriam's covering. Moreover, those who were to camp before the tabernacle on the east side, before the tent of meeting, were Moses, Aaron, and his sons, keeping charge of the sanctuary to meet the needs of Israel's seed, Israel's descendants. But look what it says again. The second time it says this. But the outsider who came near was to be put to death. The outsider who came near was to be put to death. Is there a reason why Moses and Aaron and his sons, the priests, are at the entrance of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the residence? We talked about last week, the testimony's residence. The testimony is the word of Yahovah on that tablet. It's the Ark of the Testimony. Interesting. The outsider who came near was put to death. Remember, a Kohathite could be an outsider. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time. You could be killed. We'll find out how. 39. All who were numbered of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron numbered at the commandment of Yahovah by their families, all the males 1 month old and above were, look what it says, 22,000. 22,000? It doesn't work. I put count up all the Levites from Numbers 33, 21 through 38. Here they are. 7,500, 8,600, 6,200, gives us 2,200 and 22,300. This is 22,000. We're off by 300. What happened? How does this happen? This is simple arithmetic. Numbers 39 says the total is 22,000. but the actual total is 22,300. Maybe one of these other numbers is wrong, and the count is right, but something's wrong. Now, remember, the whole thing started with numbering the Levites. 1 month and above. We're talking about the firstborn were going to be Yehovah's, of Israel's descendants. But he was going to take all the Levites instead. These are all the Levites that he's going to take. Then Yehovah said to Moses, number all the firstborn, Bekor, males. That's kind of a redundancy because Bekor are males. Number all the Bekor males. It's Bekor Zakar Bekor is the word that they're using. Of Israel's descendants from 1 month old and above, and take the number of their names. This is Israel's descendants 1 month old and above. And you shall take the Levites for me. I am Yehovah. Instead of the firstborn, the Bekor, among Israel's descendants. And the livestock of the Levites, instead of the firstborn among the livestock of Israel's seed. So Moses numbered all the firstborn among Israel's seed, Israel's descendants, as Yehovah commanded him. And all the Bekor males, all the Zakar Bekor, the firstborn males, according to the number from age from 1 month old and above. Remember, we're still talking about how they're going to be numbered. They're not going to be redeemed until they're 1 month old. And this is all about that redemption price we're going to see. 1 month old and above, of those who were numbered, of them were 22,273. Now, depending on what number you use, 22,000, they owe money. But if it's the other way around, then the money should go the other way, it seems. Because in reality, if the multiplication, if the addition is right, well, the addition is right, but if the numbers of each of those tribes is correct, they just didn't get the total right. Well, we just have to let it slide. Just know there are problems in Torah. Most don't take the time to check the addition. I like to know that it agrees. Then Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of all the firstborn of Israel's descendants, and the livestock of the Levites instead of their livestock. The Levites shall be mine. I am Yehovah. So does that mean that if we don't have, or if we have a new male Israel, I'm talking about Israel, not a Levite, if Israel, Ezra men, have a new cow that bears a bull, Bekor, Zakar Bekor, firstborn male, that they no longer bring it to Yehovah? Or is this for what hasn't been done in the past? I think that's what we're talking about, is what has not been done in the past. We're catching up to the future, to the current time, and this is Yehovah's ways of doing it to make up for what's been going on for this first year that we've had in the wilderness. Or to get things started. Well, let's find out. Then Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of all the Bekor of Israel's descendants, and the livestock of the Levites instead of their livestock. The Levites shall be mine. I am Yehovah. And for the redemption of the 273 of the firstborn of Israel's descendants, who are more than the number of the Levites. We just found that the Levites were more than the number of the descendants, and except there's something wrong. You shall take 5 shekels for each one individually. Here we had 22,300 is my addition. 22,273 were the number of Israel's descendants. I called him my son Israel. This is an older note. I said I used to call him my son Israel. And I changed to Israel's seed, and I'm trying to move toward Israel's descendants for clarity, for you, for me. Again, spiritually born men, if we're talking about Israel. He says you're going to give him 5 shekels. 5 shekels times 273. The difference between this difference and what they said, the 22,000 difference. Isn't it interesting? Such round numbers. Times 5 is 1,365 shekels. Here it is. You shall take 5 shekels for each one individually. You shall take them in currency of the shekel of the sanctuary, the shekel of 20 gerahs. Let me see what the rest of my note says here. 27. And if 1 month old to 5 years old, then your valuation for the males shall be 5 shekels of silver. And for the females, your valuation shall be 3 shekels. Now, again, some of these guys are much older, aren't they? Because we're numbering the men. Who are we numbering? Firstborn of Israel's seed. Firstborn. If I were there, they would be counting me. If my father was an Ezra man. But we're getting it redeemed. We're getting the redemption price at the 1 month old price rather than the, 15 shekels for me. If I were a couple of years younger, it would be 50 or 60 shekels. You should get 5 shekels according to the shekel of the sanctuary. 48. And you shall give the money with which the excess number of them is redeemed to Aaron and his sons. The money's coming to Aaron and his sons. So Moses took the redemption money from those who were over and above, those who were redeemed by the Levites. How do you decide where the money's going to come from? I don't know where this money came from. Did they take the 273 and divide it equally amongst the tribes? Who did it come from if it was each tribe? Did they divide that equally among the families? Your guess is as good as mine. From the firstborn of Israel's descendants, he took the money, 1,365 shekels, according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And Moses gave the redemption money to Aaron and his sons, according to the word of Jehovah, as Jehovah commanded Moses. All right, well, that finishes chapter 3. I'm going to try and get through chapter 4 as well today. Then Jehovah spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, take a census of the sons of Kohath. Sons of Kohath. By their families, by their father's house. Remember, we just took a census from 1 month old and above. We used that to figure out this firstborn redemption price. Now, we're going to take the number from 30 years old and above. 30 years old and above. But then it says, even to 50 years old. So we're talking from 30 to 50 years. 30 to 50 years is the service life of a priest. Can't go into service until you're 30, and you don't stay in service after 50. From 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, all who enter into service into the work of the tabernacle of meeting. I have some notes here. I put Moses and Aaron are sons of Amram, a son of Kohath, son of Levi. What did we say? Aaron and Moses, ben Amram, ben Kohath, ben Levi. Moses and Aaron and the leaders of the congregation, the leaders of the assembly, numbered Kohath's descendants by their families and by their father's house. Here's the details on this. Let me just open up the editor. You can see it a little bit better. Here we have Levites, age of service, 30 to 50 years old, where Kohath had 2,750. The Gershonites, 2,630, and the Merarites, 3,200 even. Total for the Levites, remember these are sons of Levi, B'nai Levi, descendants of Levi, 30 to 50 years old, was 8,558. We just did, when we were numbering the 1 month old and above, we just did and came up with the 22,300. They said 22,000. All right, let's go back. I just kind of want you to see where we're coming from. Incidentally, did you notice that the largest tribe was the Merarites? Those are the ones that are carrying really the most heavy things, the boards and all the wood, all the uprights, they call them, the pillars and the sockets. Yeah, all the really, really heavy stuff. I'm sure the tent coverings were heavy, but there's really only 4 tent coverings. There's hundreds of, well, many dozens at least, of the pillars. Not to mention that each pillar has its own socket. So some are brass, some are silver. Okay, going back. Where do we leave off here? 30 years old, all who are able to enter the service of the tent of meeting. This is the service of Kohath's descendants in the tent of meeting related to the most holy things, the Kodesh Kodashim things, the most holy things. Remember, he repeats himself, I think. Kodesh Kodashim, most holy. Ish, all men. Things like that we see often in the scriptures. They're working with the most holy things. When the camp prepares to journey, Aaron and his sons shall come, and they shall take down the covering veil. Hear that? The covering veil. What is the covering veil? This is the curtain that hangs between the holy and the most holy place. This is the curtain that is between the golden altar and the Ark of the Covenant. What do we call it? The Ark of the Testimony. Here's the Kohathites' duties. The Ark, the table, the golden table, the lampstand, the golden altar, utensils of the sanctuary with which they minister, the screen that's between the two, and all the work related to them. That's their job to handle these things. They're handling the Kodesh Kodashim things. They're the only ones that go into this place. The rest of Israel, even the Levites, they never see the golden table. They never see the golden altar. They never see the lampstand. Certainly they don't see the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark of the Testimony, the tabernacle of the testimony, Mishkan of the testimony. What does it say? What does it say? When the camp prepares to journey, Aaron and his sons shall come, and they shall take down the covering veil, take it down, and cover the Ark of the testimony with it. They're covering it so it can't be seen anymore. Then they shall put a covering of badger skin. Now, we talked about a covering of badger skin earlier on in Exodus. We read it here, Exodus 26, when we were talking about these coverings. Here it is again, Exodus 26. You shall also make a covering of ram skins. We said that possibly was a covering of fine leather. Ram skins. These aren't clean animals. Some make it some kind of aquatic animal, aquatic mammal animal at that. No, I don't think that works. That's unclean animals. I think really we're talking about a covering of fine leather. I'm thinking this is something like buffalo hide, if there were buffaloes. Probably it's going to be something like an antelope or something along those lines. Something of fine leather to cover be the outer covering of this tabernacle. This was the outside covering. Then it says this in the next verse. I'm still going to keep my notes here. No, I guess this is the notes for the next verse, isn't it? Yeah, it is. They shall put on its covering a badger skin, its fine leather, and spread over that a cloth entirely of blue. So we have the screen. Remember, it's an embroidered screen, gold, well, white, with gold and purple and scarlet, I believe, on top of the Ark of the Covenant. Then the fine leather, then a covering of blue. But now look what it says. And they shall insert its poles. I thought, insert its poles? It's already got its poles in it. What's up with that? I thought the poles were never to be removed. This is what we were taught. Exodus 25:10, look what it says. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood. 2.5 cubits shall be the length, 2.5 cubits the width, 1.5 cubits its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold, inside and out. You shall overlay it. And it shall make on it a molding of gold all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners. 2 rings shall be on the one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. But now look what it says. You shall put the poles in the rings on the sides of the ark. Remember, this was on this small edges, not the large edges. He says, you shall put the poles into the rings of the sides of the ark, that the ark may be carried by them. The poles shall be in the rings of the ark. Then look what it says. They shall not be taken from it. This says, insert the poles. The poles are already inserted. I don't get it. Again, we have a problem that is going to have to be answered in the future. We don't have the answer right now. On the table of showbread. This is the golden table. They shall spread a blue cloth and put on it the dishes. This is a blue cloth now. They're going to put on this one. Do I have a thing here? Here, I did have it for this one. They had a veil, then the badger skin, the fine leather, and then a blue cloth. On this one, it looks like they're doing the blue cloth. Well, let's find out. On the table, I have it backwards. Maybe there's 2 blue cloths. I think there is. On the table of showbread, they shall spread a blue cloth and put on it the dishes. So we have the table. We're going to put a blue cloth on it. Maybe that's to protect the gold, perhaps. And put on it the dishes, the pans, the bowls, the pitchers for pouring, and the showbread shall be on it. They shall spread over them a scarlet cloth. Yeah, so we're going to have, how do we do this? Can I do it like this? Yeah, I can. Let's do a blue cloth. 2 blue cloths, huh? They shall spread over them a scarlet cloth, and cover the same with the covering of badger skins, the fine leather. and they shall insert its poles. The poles did not stay in this one, so that makes sense. And they shall take a blue cloth and cover the lampstand of the light. Oh. This is covered finally with badger skin, isn't it? See, I'm learning as I go. I'm constantly learning. Constantly. Looks like the final covering for this is the badger skin. You know, when you think about Israel moving through the wilderness with the ark, you know, they had their armies. They came out to the Philistines were coming out to them, and they said if the ark is with them, that they're going to prevail. Don't you picture the ark glistening with gold? Do you picture the ark covered with a blue covering? I'm guessing we don't, because it's never pictured that way, is it? The lampstand. And they shall take a blue cloth and cover the lampstand of the light with its lamps, its wick trimmers, its trays, and all its oiled vessels with which they service it. They shall put it with all its utensils in a covering of fine leather, and put it on a carrying beam. They shall put it. This thing is not being carried upright, is it? The lampstand of the light. It's going to be put in a bag, covered with a blue cloth, put in a bag made of fine leather, and put it on a carrying beam. Sounds like it's strung up underneath the carrying beam. Now it says, over the golden altar, they shall spread a blue cloth and cover it with a covering of fine leather. Again, everything's had fine leather. The only thing that has blue is the Ark of the Covenant. That had a blue covering, wasn't it? All the other ones have the fine leather as their final covering. Over the golden altar they shall spread a blue cloth and cover it with a covering of fine leather. And they shall insert its poles. And they shall take all the utensils of service. All the utensils of service. This must be all the other things that are left over, I suppose, with which they minister in the sanctuary. In the sanctuary. These may be things related to things that remove the ashes, things that turn the ashes on the golden altar when they're burning incense, other paraphernalia that is used in that sanctuary, in that holy place. They say minister in the holy, It's not sanctuary, it's holy, Kodesh. Put them in a blue cloth, cover them with the badger skin, the fine leather, and put them on a carrying beam. And they shall take away the ashes from the altar. Spread a purple cloth over it. Purple cloth on the altar. They shall put on it all its implements with which they minister there, the fire pans, the forks, the shovels, the basins, and all the utensils of the altar. Now we're talking about the altar that is outside. Remember, the priests are the only ones that get to touch the bronze altar. Nobody else gets to touch it. They see it, but they don't get to touch it. Could this be the altar that we're talking about? Yeah, I put bronze altar, has two coverings. There it is. Also, they shall take away the ashes from the altar. Spread the purple cloth over it, a purple cloth over it. They shall put on it all its implements with which they minister there. Fire pans, the forks, the shovels, the basins. You can imagine it's a lot of stuff that they use to put that meat and deal with the ashes and the coals and all those things. And all the utensils of the altar. And they shall spread on it a covering of badger skins and insert its poles. Again, everything's covered with fine leather except for the Ark of the Covenant. the Ark of the Testimony. And when Aaron and his sons had finished covering the sanctuary and all its furnishings of the holy, coverings of the holy, there it is right there, holy things, when the camp is set to go, then the sons of Kohath shall come to carry them. They don't come in to carry them until they're covered. You see it? You die. You touch it, you die. But they shall not touch any holy thing. This is the holy thing, not the most holy thing. Don't touch any holy thing, lest they die. These are the things in the tabernacle of meeting which Kohath's descendants are to carry. They're carrying the Kodesh and the Kodesh, Kodeshim things. Now it says, the appointed duty of Eleazar ben Aharon, the priest, is for the oil of the light. This is what apparently Eleazar is going to carry. The oil for the light, the sweet incense, the mincha, the daily mincha, the anointing oil. And he has oversight of all the tabernacle, all the Mishkan, I think is what it's going to say, all the Mishkan, plus oversight of the Mishkan and all that is in it. Oversight of the tabernacle, with all that is in it, with the holy and its furnishings. Jehovah's got a system of doing things. The priests are going to cover them up, take down certain things, cover up certain things. Once that's done, then other tribes are able to enter into that most holy place once the other things are gone. But it's all done in order. Then Jehovah spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, do not cut off the tribe of the families of the Kohathites from among the Levites. What is he talking about, I thought? Well, you got to read the rest of it to understand. Do not try to cut off the tribe of the families of the Kohathites from among the Levites, but do this in regard to them, that they may live and not die when they approach the Kodeshim things. Did you hear that? Do them a service by covering it up and doing the things that you need to do first before they come in, lest they die when they approach the most holy things. Aaron and his son shall go in and appoint each of them to his service and his task. His sons, Eleazar in particular, I would assume, is going to instruct the Kohathites on how and timing, not only how to carry them, but timing on when they're supposed to enter in to get them. It says, but they shall not go in to watch while the holy things are being covered, lest they die. Like I said, it's more than touching, it's seeing. They can't even see the holy things, lest they die. Well, we said the same thing here. This is a note relating to, we're talking about lest they die, lest they die. Watch the holy things that are being covered, lest they die. And when Aaron and his sons finished covering the testimony, covering the Kodesh and all the furnishings of the Kodesh, when the camp is said to go, Kohath's seed shall come and carry them, but they shall not touch any holy thing lest they die. Well, it said touch there. Now it's talking about even seeing it. Do not watch it while the holy things are being covered. These are the things in the tabernacle of meeting, tent of meeting, which Kohath's descendants are to carry. And then here's what we just read, 18, 19, and 20. Again, we're talking about ha-kodeshim things, the holy, kodesh, kodeshim things. The holy things, I guess kodeshim is what we're talking about, the holy things. The kodeshim things are being covered. Then Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, also take a census of Gershon's descendants by their father's house, by their families. In other words, it's never about the mother's house. The mother doesn't have a house. If there's ladies, they're covered by a man in Israel. They don't have their own tents. Well, they might have their own tents, but they're still inside the camp of their father's houses. From 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. These are the working men, remember, the ones who are serving in the sanctuary. You shall number them, all who enter to perform the service, to do the work of the tent of meeting. This is the service of the families of the Gershonites. Look at what they have. The tent coverings. The tent. It makes it sound like there's only the one covering, but they're talking about the coverings inside the tent. I think we're talking about the screen that's going to be on the inside. Remember I said inside and outside, the things that are uncovered. Let's look at it and see what we can figure out. I put tent coverings, the screen for the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Remember the screen that is between the holy and the most holy place is already being covered by the Kohathites. It's on the Ark of the Covenant. The screen for the door of the tabernacle, meaning the screen for the door of the court, the hangings for the court, all the things that are around about, the white coverings of that court around the tabernacle and the altar and their cords, according to all the work relating to them. So when they're done, the only thing that's going to be left, altar and their cords, the only thing that's going to be left, it looks like, is, would they have the cords holding up the beams that are holding up these coverings that they put up? I don't know. It might just be the beams on the ground with their bases on it and the tent pegs there as well, if they're taking the cords. Let's see if we can discern that. This is the service of the families of the Gershonites in serving and carrying. This is an overview that I just gave us here. We haven't talked about it yet, of course. They shall carry the curtains of the tabernacle. You know, sometimes the way they write these things, it makes it hard to understand. The punctuation, I think, makes it difficult. Oftentimes, Yehovah gives the big picture, living things. Then he talks about the bahama and the birds and the fish and the bugs. They're all the living things. Here we're talking about the tabernacle. Then he talks about the tent of meeting, same thing. It's covering, another way of saying it, the tabernacle, the mishkan, tent moed, tent of meetings. It's covering the covering of badger skins that is on it. The screens for the door of the tabernacle of meeting. You know, I have to think that they're taking all of the coverings that are on the tabernacle. Remember, there are several coverings on that tabernacle. Check this out. Here's the one that they're talking about. Badger skins, the leather one that is on it, the fine leather. But we also had a ram skin, a sheepskin dyed red. We had one made of goat's hair. And the first one was an embroidered covering with cherubim on it. It didn't have the gold, but it had the purple and the scarlet in it. Purple, scarlet, and white, I believe it was. All right. I think they're taking those. I think they're taking all the coverings. Because nobody else has got the coverings. By process of elimination, somebody's got to take them. I think it must be the Gershonites. That's my guess. Let's go back. All right. They shall carry the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, its coverings It's covering. I think it could be the coverings. The covering of badger skin, fine leather that is on it, the screen for the door of the tabernacle of meeting. They go on. The screen for the door of the gate of the court, the hangings for the court, which are all around the tabernacle, and the altar, which are around the tabernacle. Oh, around the tabernacle and the altar. There you go. They're not taking the altar. The altar was already being taken by the Kohathites, it was covered by the sons of Aaron. Remember? So, but this is the court which is around the tabernacle and the altar. I just read it wrong. And their courts, all the furnishings for their service, and all that is made for these things, so they shall serve. 27. Aaron and his sons shall assign all the service of the sons, of the sons of the Gershonites. It must be the Gershonites' descendants. B'nai. The Gershonites, B'nai. Yeah, the Gershonites, B'nai. The Gershonites' descendants. Yeah, good. That's what I figured it had to be. Okay. All their tasks, all their services, and you shall appoint to them all their tasks as their duty. This is the service of the families of Gershon's descendants in the tabernacle of meeting, and their duties under the authority of Itamar. Ben Aaron, Ben Aharon, the priest. There it is. Itamar supervises the Gershonites. I think we're going to see that he may supervise the Merarites as well. Although, remember, Eleazar has authority over all of them. All the Kodesh and Kodeshim and Kodeshim things. All right, 29. As for Merari's descendants, you shall number them by their families and by their father's house, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, 30 to 50. You shall number them, everyone who enters the service to do the work of the tent of meeting. And this is what they must carry as all their service for the tabernacle of meeting. Look what they're going to carry. They've got a load of stuff. Boards of the tabernacle. It's bars, it's pillars, it's sockets, it's utensils, all the work relating to them, and the pillars of the court all around it with their sockets, their pegs, and their cords. They're carrying the cords. Seems like we have an overlap on some of the things. Pillars and cords. Pegs. That is a lot of stuff. And this is what they must carry as all their service for the tabernacle meeting. The boards of the tabernacle. Its bars, its pillars, its sockets. All the pillars around the court with their sockets. Pegs and cords with all the furnishings and all their service. And you shall assign by name the items he must carry. Every man in this tribe is going to have things that he's going to carry. Maybe he's going to carry one socket. Maybe he's going to carry half a dozen cords and pegs. But everybody's going to be carrying something. This is the service of the families of Merari's descendants. All their service for the tent of meeting under the authority of Itamar. See that? Itamar is supervising Merari as well, and the Gershonites. This Ben Aaron, Ben Aharon, the priest. And Moses, Aaron, and the leaders of the congregation numbered the Kohathites' descendants by their families and by their father's house from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, everyone who enters the service of the work of the tent of meeting. And those who were numbered by their families were 2,750. 2,750. 2,750. All right. These are the ones who were numbered of the families of the Kohathites, all who might serve in the tent of meeting, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the commandment of Jehovah by the hand of Moses. And those who were numbered of the sons of Gershon by their families and by their house, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old, everyone who's entered the service for work in the tent of meeting, those who are numbered by their families, by their father's house, 2,630. 2,630. These are the ones who were numbered of the families of the sons of Gershon, all who might serve in the tabernacle of meeting, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the commandment of Jehovah. Those of the families of Merari's descendants, who are numbered by their families, by their father's house, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. Everyone who entered into the service for work in the tent of meeting, those who were numbered by their families were 3,200. These are the ones who were numbered of the families of Merari's descendants, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the word of Jehovah by the hand of Moses. All who were numbered of the Levites, whom Moses, Aaron, and the leaders of Israel numbered by their families and by their father's house, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. Everyone who came to do the work of the service and the work of the bearing burdens, service and bearing burdens. This is more about the bearing burdens, isn't it? But you know what? They're not only going to take it down, but I think they're going to be the ones who put it up. Think about it. Merari is going to carry the pillars, the sockets, the pillars, the cords, the tent pegs. They're going to put up the outer covering. Then what would it be? The Gershonites are going to come put up the coverings that are going to go around it. They're also going to put up the frame, the Merarites, the boards of the tabernacle, the pillars for the boards. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff that they're going to carry. Interesting responsibility. It'd be interesting once they get into the routine to see how fast this thing goes up and comes down. I bet you it's going to be really quick. They set it up the first time in a day. Can they set it up the second time in a half a day? Perhaps. Okay. All who were numbered of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron and the leaders of Israel numbered by their families, by their fathers' houses, from 30 years old and above, even to 50 years old. Everyone who came to do the work of service and the work of bearing burdens in the tabernacle of meeting, the tent of meeting. Those who were numbered were 8,580. That was the total, 8,580 right there. According to the commandments of Jehovah, they were numbered by the hand of Moses, each according to his service, according to his task. Thus they were numbered by him as Jehovah commanded Moses. Well, we're going to stop here today. Next week, look what we get to talk about. Numbers 5. This is the law of jealousy. You have a woman that you even think may be playing around on the sly. She comes into the tabernacle. We're going to see what happens. And isn't it interesting that a man can bring a woman, but a woman doesn't bring a man? Oh, we have so much to learn. You know, the doctrines and traditions of men, especially as they relate to marriage and the amount of women a man can have and who a woman is going to be covered by, does not fit with today's society, today's doctrines and traditions of men. The things that we think are normal and just aren't. We've learned lies. We've accepted lies and we've accepted perversions. And we have much, much to learn. Well, we're going to stop here. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll continue this adventure, this excursion, this revealing of Yehovah's word next week. Love you tons. Bye now.